On. Right, welcome back to the Me, Myself, and Hopefully You podcast. Today, we have a rather special episode. We have our first ever guest on the podcast. So rather than
my God.
listening to my annoying utterances, we get to listen to a very deep and thought-provoking voice. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest at this time is a man with a vast knowledge on the most random of things. He
It's
wore a
true.
turkey hat on the last day of Christmas
Also
and
true.
ate raw lasagna sheets in English. He was born in Malaysia,
Wow,
but
that
he was
is
raised in
true.
the Royal Navy. I mean, in England. It is the man with three first names and co-host of the Hypothetical Boxing podcast, James Edward Paul Robinson. Welcome to the show, James. How are you doing?
Right. I understand we went to high school together, but you know stuff about me that I don't. What's up? What's up with that?
Oh, I know too much about you. Honestly, James. How are you doing? How's everything?
I am fantastic, and I
Brilliant.
feel extra special to be a first guest. To be a
Yeah.
guest, to be deemed interesting enough to be a guest on anything is fantastic. It's a real boost for me.
I mean, you and Ismail will be together, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
you're both. I felt like you couldn't split. I can't split you two. It's just you're going to be released as two separate episodes, so make sure you check the other episode out. But
Wonderful.
at
I'll
the
check
same
it
time,
out.
hopefully. Mm.
Yeah, nice.
So James, I just want to. Oh, I just dropped my drink. That wasn't very good. I just want to sort of do some quick fire questions with you, just like with Ismail.
Of course,
The
hit me.
first question I want to ask you is, what was the last text message that you sent?
It was to you, and it was awesome.
All right, okay. Before that, you can't use
Before
my
that,
one.
I was
Right,
sorting Valentine's Day gifts with my girlfriend. So
right,
there I am.
okay. All right, fair enough. Oh yeah, I forgot you're in a
There's the
relationship.
text.
How's that going? I
Whoops.
forgot about that.
Oh, it's fantastic. Been together about 1.5 years almost now, so it's
Oh
going very,
wow.
very well. Yeah.
Yeah, you're cute together. I saw you, and I saw a picture on Instagram. I think. I
She
was
goes
like,
to
oh,
Cambridge, by the way. Just gotta flex that just real
I know. I
quick.
know. You know. Have you ever heard of Ben Shapiro?
Yes,
Ben,
I have heard
ben
of Ben
Shapiro is
Shapiro.
always like, "Oh, my wife's a doctor. You're going to do the
My
same
wife is a
thing."
doctor. She's a doctor.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
the time. It's really so you could do the exact same thing. It's great.
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
the next question I want to ask you is, who is one? You had to pick one person. Who is your role model?
My role model.
Yeah.
My father, I think.
Oh,
To be.
okay. And why is
Yeah.
that?
Well, I just think, he's a very grounded man, and he's hilarious as well. He's got like a very dry sense of humor,
Okay.
very witty, and he's done very, very well for himself. Yeah, trained as an accountant first of all, and then moved into management. So
Oh,
he's
wow.
well versed in both finance and like people skills. So
Okay.
it's if anyone's got like a kind of like a footprint for a life that is stable and allows you to do different things, it is my dad. And yeah,
Oh,
I
fair.
think he's
I
great.
really want to meet your dad. I don't. You're one of those people who I just feel like will have an interesting dad. And it's not just
Yeah.
what you just said. I don't know. Some people just feel like there's just some people I just want to meet either their dad or their mom or both of them. I want to meet your dad now. Maybe we can get him on the next episode of the Me,
Oh, of
Myself, and Hopefully You
course.
podcast. It was
I'll ask
interesting
him.
because
He'd love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was interesting because I was speaking to Ismail and I said Ismail told me that his mum, I think it was his mum, that had gone to a Biggie concert, and I thought
Oh wow.
we need to get your mum on the podcast now
Oh,
because I'm
she's
intrigued.
got a YouTube cooking channel.
Has she?
Yes, fantastic.
Oh my god! Why didn't Ismail? I'm disappointed. If you're listening, mate, I'm disappointed in you, and you should be listening for starters. But I'm disappointed in the fact that you didn't
Yeah.
He plugged his Twitter and he plugged the podcast. He didn't plug his
His
mum's
mum's YouTube channel.
cooking show.
I forgot her
Disappointed.
name, but I
I'm
used
plugging it,
her.
Mrs. Hasnain, if that's your last name. I'm plugging it right now. Whatever it is, it's being plugged. It'll be in the
Yes.
link in the description. It'll be above Ismail's Twitter link. That's how important it is.
Wonderful.
The final quick fire question is, if God forbid there was a house fire in your house and you could only save one thing, right? One thing. All your family are safe. It's just one thing you can save. What is
Oh,
it?
wonderful. I think it would have to be my laptop, to be honest.
Okay.
It's just my most versatile. Oh, actually, now that I've said that, I'm looking around my room and I'm like, no, this this giant stuffed giraffe. What is it? There's a video
What?
episode going up, isn't there?
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, I need to get my lighting out. But there, giant stuffed giraffe.
Oh, I didn't even think of that, to be honest.
His name is George.
Now you can
and he
see
was a gift,
James' beautiful
and
face.
he is fantastic. So
Oh,
yeah,
I really want one of those.
emotional support giraffe. That's
I
who he
saw one in
is.
Morrison's for Valentine's Day. I feel like just
Oh,
buying one for myself.
yeah, go on.
It's massive though. It's like 20 quid, but it's massive.
Oh,
I
single
want it to
people
sit
should
on
treat
my.
themselves Valentine's Day. Get
I
it,
I know, yeah,
get it.
100%.
Yeah,
If you're alone on Valentine's Day, just treat yourself.
treat yourself.
Just buy yourself a nice box of chocolates, fancy
Mm,
ones, right? Don't buy your,
mm.
but pretend it's for someone else and just buy it for yourself. I might do that actually. I do that on my birthday. I treat myself so much on my birthday.
Oh, same.
I spent the whole day on my own on my birthday, and it was the best thing ever.
Oh, yes.
It
There's
was
someone
so
who
good.
also values their own company. It's just the best. Being like,
It
yeah,
is.
this
It's
is
great,
my
isn't it?
day. I get to do what I want. Yeah.
Exactly. So I started in the intro. I hinted at the fact that you were indeed born in Malaysia. You were born there, weren't you?
I wasn't, but
Or
I
were you
moved
not?
there very young.
Oh, okay, so you
My
moved there. So you were
brother, my
born in
brother was
England.
born. Yeah, made in the
Okay, so
wrong
my
navy,
intro
as
has
you
just
said.
been
Yeah,
ruined,
yeah.
but we're gonna carry on. It'll be
It's
all right.
fine. It was fantastic.
So you were born in England, but then you were raised in Malaysia, but then you were also raised in England. Okay, so
Yeah, yeah.
I think the first question I want to sort of ask is why did your parents move over to Malaysia?
Um. Well, it was my dad's work actually that took him out there,
Oh
and
wow.
he was at the time the director of manufacturing for Robert McBride LLC. So they were like, "Look, we want to open some stuff in Malaysia because cheap labor, essentially." And so they were like, "Can you go out and manage it?" He was like, "Yeah, if you pay for my kids' schooling and my my housing." And they were like, "Yeah, sure." So
Wow.
yeah, so I went to a private school for 3 years
Oh
in
wow.
Malaysia, international school. That was it was completely cost free as well. Well, it cost the company, but it didn't cost my family anything. It's a fantastic
Okay.
opportunity. Yeah,
Wow. So that's a deal that your dad couldn't really turn down. Everything was essentially being paid for.
exactly. Yeah,
Wow. All right. So I mean, well, obviously, and you left when you were 11. You said.
came back when I was 11. I
Yeah.
left when I was 7, so uh, academic year
Yeah.
4 to
Sorry. Yeah.
year 6. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Um. That's what I meant. Sorry. Yeah. So,
Hmm.
what was Malaysia like at that time, and sort of, do you remember when you first went
Well,
there, or were you too young?
I think I was too young to grasp like the geopolitical situation
Okay.
of Malaysia at the time, but
You didn't understand the geopolitical situation at the time, no.
no, no.
I sort of expected more.
Not as a
I
7-year-old.
thought
I did not,
as a
Tarek. No,
7-year-old, you'd be talking about the history of
it's our
Malaysia
school. Yes.
and British colonialism and all that jazz.
We had a British curriculum, so not a chance.
Okay.
Yeah, no way the British are gonna do that to
Yeah.
themselves.
The same nowadays, isn't it?
Cover it up, sweep it under the rug. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the way. Goddamn.
Um sorry, yeah. So what was okay, so you don't necessarily remember, but in terms sorry, you don't remember when you initially went there. But
Mm,
when you came back here then, okay, to
mhm,
just change up the question I was gonna ask, or that I
yeah.
did ask, what were the major cultural differences that you noticed when you came back between Malaysia and England?
Cultural difference when I came back was I think a lot of this applies to just urbanization because I lived in the capital city of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur,
Oh, wow.
for that time, and I went to school with like really really rich people, pretty much. In fact, the Princess of Malaysia was in my year at school, so
Wow.
that's
James, you
I
could have married her,
performed.
man. You could have been a
Pardon?
prince.
I could have, but I'm white, so
Imagine.
that would
Imagine
never
if
have
you became a
happened.
prince. Imagine if she still
Imagine.
loves you
Well,
and she's still looking for you.
shout out
Imagine if you
Zara
had a
if you're listening.
Snapchat.
I don't. I'm afraid.
Oh.
I have a lot of people's Instagram, but I don't have hers.
Mm.
But Malaysia has a rotational king system where there's 13
Oh.
districts and 13 sultans, and every 4 years one
Oh.
of them's king, essentially.
Oh, fair
Um,
enough. That's nice.
yeah, it's pretty good. So she's not princess anymore. um,
You're saying that as if you're the king.
it's me. I won. I won.
Oh.
Yeah. Um,
Oh.
cultural differences. So I came back and I went to Hazy High, and moved into Helmshire, and it was really kind of like the wealth disparity that opened my eyes to like a lot of the world's problems at the age of 11. And I was like, oh, this is kind of messed up.
Yeah.
But you know, at the same time, we still do live in England, and everyone's got roof over their heads and they've got food. Maybe just about, but they've got it. But it kind of was like, that was a big shock to me, because I went from when I used to go around to like people's houses in Malaysia. They used to have like gated communities and big, huge, spacious areas. In fact, one of my best friends. Do you remember the Malaysia Airlines incident
Yeah.
where one of the planes went missing? He was head of fleet at the time.
He was head of.
My friend's dad. Sorry, I didn't mention
Oh
that.
right, I was gonna say your friend is the head.
Yeah,
I
my
was
11-year-old friend.
Yeah.
I wasn't being groomed. From, my friend's dad, and their house was huge, and it was in like a gated community, and they had like a country club in the center of this big sprawling kind of area. And then you'd come here and you go around to your friends' houses, and it'd be like a council estate, and I'd be like, oh.
Was it a massive shock then?
It wasn't a shock per se, because I didn't
You're
really
a kid
think much
still,
of
aren't
it.
you? You're still gonna.
Yeah, you're still a kid. But it kind of crept in at that point, and I was like, oh, the world's kind of messed up, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh wow!
Very
So
depressing
in
podcast.
Malaysia,
It's normally.
What's that?
So it's a very depressing podcast I've just turned this into.
I mean, I see. The thing is, I have always. I remember when you told us that you told me and you remember in year 7 when we did that presentation or whatever in like in front of open evening, whatever, and you said it, and I was like, whoa, that's sick, and I was so fascinated, and like for the 5 years that I knew you, I never once like I was always like, I really want to sit down with this guy and just ask him questions about Malaysia.
Here I am.
But I mean, I'm finally got the opportunity, so it's essentially a dream come true when you think about it. And so and if it's depressing, it's depressing. Like whatever. Like I just want to know more about. So what in Malaysia was there not a lot? I mean, at least as far as you could see, not a lot of poor. Was it everyone quite like wealthy? I mean, you went to a private school, so
yeah. Like I said, Princess was in my year. Stuff like that. Everyone was like big oil expatriates, and they'd moved in from like Texas or weirdly Aberdeen and Dubai, and Malaysia were the 4 places, because it's just covered in palm oil plantations nowadays. Yeah, all the jungle's been removed, and there's just palm oil like on all big stretches of road. But I'm just gonna squeeze in a little anecdote, which involves Ish actually. So we were in BRGS together, which is the 6th form for people who don't know, and we both did the same subjects at school, and we went to an engineering talk, and the guy flashed up a few images on screen, and he put up the Petronas Twin Towers, which are kind of like the staple of the Malaysian skyline, 2 big twin towers joined by a sky bridge. And he was like, oh, can anyone tell me the name of this building? And me and Ish both put our hands up, and he picked Ish, and he was like, oh, that's Petronas Twin Towers. He was like, oh, are you from Malaysia? I was like,
oh wow,
no,
but I am.
Yeah,
that must have been Oh wow.
Yeah.
So did he know it already, or did he know it because you spoke about it?
Pardon?
Did Ismail know it already?
Ish just knew it for being a man of culture. Yeah.
Yeah, he is a very intelligent man. Yeah, no, I mean that is a fascinating little anecdote that you can tell, a little story. There was some other stuff that I wanted to sort of ask. So I mean, back to the princess thing, because now you've intrigued me about that. So at the time when you were like 7 years old, did you know she was a princess?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So what was that? What do you remember?
I think her father came into power the 2nd year that I was at school, so year 5 and year 6, and I performed in a version of Aladdin in front of the King and Queen of Malaysia, so I can put that on my resume. Yeah,
James, why don't you tell these stories more, man?
Oh, because I don't know.
I would be telling. That would be on my LinkedIn. That would be my bio on LinkedIn. I performed in front of the King and Queen of Malaysia.
Yeah, I had like a almost heavily Scouse accent though at the time.
Even better. They must have been fascinated by you.
Oh yeah.
Like, who's that white boy over there? in
Oh,
whatever they
trust me,
speak in
like,
Malaysia.
yeah.
I want him. Can we get him? No? Why not?
He's
Because
got a podcast nowadays. Can we go on?
imagine if you saw this. It'd be sick.
That'd be quite wild.
Oh, I need to find. Oh, I want to know who this princess is. I'll at her and like send this podcast to her. Be like, can you marry my friend James, please? He's got a girlfriend. But,
I didn't speak to her like at all.
I'm pretty sure. Huh? You don't speak to her at all.
No,
It's fine. We can
like,
start a
even at the
conversation again.
time.
No, forget you. Just marry me. I'll be like, I'm like James. It's just a lot less intelligent, a lot less handsome, and just a lot less anything that's decent, good, or good about James.
I mean, that's just
A
not
lot
true,
less.
is it? Though that's just not true.
I mean, if she, oh man, imagine that. As if she,
Yeah, I did.
so you knew, so you sort of knew that like she was. Were you phased? Because it's interesting. Because you were a child. Like I feel like kids aren't really phased. Like I'm being phased by this, but as a child, you must have just been like, she's just a kid.
Yeah. But that was kind of cool. Like, yeah.
It was just sort of
my parents did joke at the time to try and get close to her.
Yeah,
like,
your parents.
Yeah, that's someone you want in your circle growing up.
Well, they're like, yeah, go on, go speak to Princess Jasmine. Go on.
Jasmine.
I'm just assuming that's her name just because of Aladdin.
Oh yeah, I did mention it.
Did you have to refer to her as princess or not?
Well, they didn't really speak to her much, but I just called her Zara when I did.
Okay, so her name. You could probably find out. Do you know what? I'm gonna look it up after this. I'm gonna find out which one it is. Imagine if she's like this beautiful princess right now, or like daughter of a sultan.
Possible. It's possible.
Probably is.
Yeah.
I want to be surprised. What do they speak in Malaysia?
They speak Malayu, which they just call Bahasa, or Bahasa Malayu.
Okay.
Bahasa just means language, though, in Malay.
Oh, okay. So do you know how to speak that?
I learned it for 3 years there, but I didn't continue it, and therefore my knowledge is gone. But I could say things like Nama saya ialah James, which means, I'm sure you can guess what it means. I also weirdly,
I love James.
Yeah,
because that is what the princess said to you a million times when you just
of course, only in her head though, I'm afraid. Yeah, that means my name is James. And I can also remember the word for potato, which is ubi ketang, but I can't remember much else.
Ubi ketang.
Ubi ketang.
That's a better words. We should start calling potatoes ubi ketang.
Ubi ketang, yeah.
That is a better way to say it. It's a brilliant way to say it, in fact. Interesting.
Yeah. Terima kasih means thank you. Selamat datang means welcome. That's about it.
Do you ever go back to Malaysia?
I did. I went year 9 of over the summer, and my friend who I mentioned earlier. This is really good for continuity. Oh my god, thank you, Tarek. My friend whose dad was the head of fleet, who now works for Emirates actually, but he was like, "Oh, James can come stay with us for a week if he wants." And so I did. My dad's job involved a lot of like flying around whilst we were in Malaysia still, and he had loads of air miles, and he used them all up and sent me on a unaccompanied miners trip on my own to Malaysia to get picked up at the airport. And then I spent 1 week at their house, and then I spent another week at a resort with them down the coast of Malaysia. So.
James, you're living my dream is to find either a rich girl or a rich best friend. Someone that I can live the life with.
I'm really good at reconnecting with people.
I know, man. You've got some like links. So obviously you stayed in contact with this person, and this person was quite wealthy. Going back now as a lot older than when you left, or having matured a lot more than when you'd left, what was that like?
Well, I don't know. I don't know about matured a lot more, to be honest with you, but it was certainly better because I got to spend it with my old best friend. It was pretty much just us two, and we got up early to play on the PS2. Oh, those were the days.
Oh, good times.
Yeah. I tried to find his PSN recently, and I didn't. It was really sad.
Oh, so you're not in contact with him anymore?
Oh, not really, no.
James, man, you need to stay in contact with these rich people.
I'm really not good at this.
You're not good at this. Staying in contact with rich people. No. Like, you need to maintain the connections. They're the ones whose dads will give you the jobs. And they'll give you jobs that you don't actually have to do anything. You just sort of show up to a few meetings and then get paid for it at the end.
Yes, business.
Exactly. like white collar crime or whatever it is.
Have you seen the whole Wall Street debacle today?
I've spoken to Ismail about it. Very
I
interesting.
imagine Ish would have wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, he did it. He mentioned it because I had the same questions, and I said, and this is sort of exposing me now because I mentioned in the intro that you were the first guest. I just interviewed Ismail because the plan was that I'd do you first and then I'd do Ismail. So I'd
Yeah.
written the intro already, but because of the times, Ismail ended up going. So I've essentially exposed myself here. But oh well. Anyway, so I asked him the same quickfire question.
This is just like set up for the Ismail podcast now.
Exactly.
You're
Make sure
teasing
you
it.
check that
Yeah.
out. That is
absolutely.
that is above Ismail's Twitter link, but below Ismail's mum's YouTube show. So
go to the top.
You know,
go to the top.
Exactly. Anyway, so I asked him the question of what the last text was, and he told me, oh, it was about his with his sort of like friends that are into investing and stuff, and they were talking about Wall Street. So I was like, you know what? I know nothing about this. I need to learn more because I'm fascinated by it, and it's so interesting. Because we sort of said it sort of proves the point that there's this minority in the world that control the money and like and everything else in this world, and it's ridiculous that we don't know about it.
Yeah, it's properly exposed the system of Wall Street and how the market is just sheer, almost like a casino, and it's stuff like this. They label it when it's not like Wall Street bankers doing it as like you know. I'm trying to think of a good phrasing for this, but not doing it properly, like completely abusing the system.
Yeah,
and it is no more too dissimilar to what happened during the 2008 like Wall Street crash.
Oh, exactly.
Now that other people are doing it, it's wrong. But when they did it at the time,
now that
completely unregulated as well.
Well, I saw a tweet, right, and I mentioned this on the podcast as well. The tweet was, I love the stock market because when it does well, I get nothing, but when it goes bad, I lose my job. And it's so true. Like this one thing with just a few graphs and lines determines so much for what happens in the world. And you know what's so fascinating? It's one of those things, and I want to do an entire podcast on this topic of how education does not prepare us for the real world anymore. Or maybe it never did.
Well, the schooling system is still like almost identical to how it was in Victorian era schooling systems, where they just prepared us for factory jobs at that point.
It's ridiculous. Like the fact that we don't know, the fact that I couldn't understand the articles that I was reading on like the Guardian about this thing, and I was like, I've not a clue what's going on. It mustn't be that much of a big deal. But I spoke to Ismail, and when he said it, I said, "This sounds massive. Like, how is this not on news everywhere?"
Has he explained it at all?
Yeah, he explained it to me slightly. What do you understand it or? Yeah. So he explained it to me, and then I ended up following his Twitter account, and then I scrolled down to see what he'd retweeted, and he retweeted somewhere that's kind of explained it. And I read a part of that, and then obviously I popped onto this call. I want to finish that off, but it's just so interesting because essentially what he said was that you had these guys who had figured out that these top guys were manipulating the stock market for their own benefit.
Hedge fund managers,
the hedge fund managers, that's it. They were manipulating the stock market for their own benefit, and so these little guys did the same thing in order to essentially get back at them. Which is great because it's like, go you.
What they did was they purchased something which like has an option on, and so you buy like stock with and you offer it for like a certain amount of time, and you set a price at that. So you say, okay, well, I'm going to give you the option to buy this for the next 3 months, and I'm going to price this stock at like $55, let's say.
Yeah.
And then they drive the market down, so you'll never buy it, and it makes the company look like it's going to fail. And once that does, they come in and get it all for cheap. But what people did was they bought heavily into GameStop in this instance, and now they're doing it for like BlackBerry, AMC, and Nokia as well right now. And then they bought those stocks really cheap, but they'd be priced at like $200 at this point, and they get them for $55 because of that long time buying window that they gave them. So it's really like a big smack in the face to the big man, the Wall Street businessman with a suit and tie, and it's a real Robin Hood story which is
It
really
is.
ironic because the app that allowed them to do it is called Robin Hood,
Oh
and
wow.
Robin Hood have shut down the selling option, sorry, the buying option
Oh, okay.
for these companies, which is warrants a class action lawsuit, and they will probably get hit with one because it is just complete closing of a market. It's so wild.
It is.
It's genuinely like crime is happening right there.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's so like it's probably the clearest evidence that we've ever got of the conspiracy theory that is a minority that sort of control everything and act as puppet masters. When you look at this, and you know how we always sort of use the word like the bankers did us over in 2008 and the bankers did this and the bankers did that. Well, this is proof,
Yeah, they did.
essentially, that the bankers
exactly
did do
happened.
this. That when we refer to the bankers, it's not just this mythical thing. This is actual people that just managed to end up just controlling the finances in the entire world almost.
It's when you say bankers, like the mythical thing, all I can think of is Deal or No Deal, where it's like, oh, what's the banker's offer? It's the mystery man on the phone.
Oh, but it is true. Like, I mean, we always use the word bankers, and maybe we should stop using the word bankers and use something else because it gets used all the time about how the bankers did this, but we never sort of talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is another thing. Like, I had to learn myself, like, by asking questions and going online about what was the 2008 crash. Like, why was there a recession? Like, and the fact that I never, and even to this day, I still struggle to understand it a lot. I barely know anything about it, but the fact that we never sort of learned anything like that about school, or just stuff like mortgages and taxes, it frustrates me so much because think about how many hours we spent in school. Think about how many hours we spent doing homework. What was the point for any of it? What was the point of me learning about I give you an onion? What was the point of me remembering that whole poem?
You can't disrespect Miss Carol Ann Duffy.
The fact that you remember that whole the writer.
Carol Ann Duffy's brilliant. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, 18 poems. I could have remembered 18 bloody reasons why the Wall Street crash happened.
We're not taught financial literacy at all in schools. You're right.
It's so bad.
A complete shame.
It actually is because like credit cards and debit cards and mortgages and credit scores and all that sort. You've got to learn it all yourself. And I think one of the issues is the older generation go, well, we had to learn it ourselves. But that's such a stupid argument to make. Because because you've had a crap situation doesn't mean that the rest of us need to have a crap situation. Like it doesn't make sense at all. It's like the whole, oh well, the World War II era had to evacuate for 4 years and they had bombs dropping down. Yes, I know that, and I'm not trying to get away from that. But what I'm saying is we still need to improve our pandemic situation, right? And that it's not easy. I'm not saying World War II was easier, but why are we comparing these two things?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, you mentioned with the older generation being quite bitter towards the younger generation. Like, oh, they just want everything to be easy for them. It's like, yeah.
I think that's partially true.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Surely, as well, if you're a member of the older generation, you have children. Surely you want to make the world an easier place for your children to exist in.
Exactly.
I mean,
I do agree to an extent that we are entitled and we are sort of snowflakey and all that stuff. I do 100% agree with that, right? But okay, we are these things. Well, for number one, you're the parents who raised us. You don't blame a child for doing something. You blame the parent of the child because the parent clearly didn't raise them well. It's such an obvious statement, right? And I understand the fact that we are snowflakes and that we are this and we are that. But it's the constant, oh, you're snowflakes. Right. Okay. So because of all these things that you guys, we didn't create eighth place trophies. You made eighth place trophies and gave them to us. Like that was something you created. As a 4-year-old, I didn't go, well, why don't I get a trophy? I'm in 8th place. Because naturally I understood that first place gets a trophy. But you invented 8th place trophies and you gave them to me. So now I expect a trophy if I bloody get 8th place.
8th place, man. Yeah, sports days were riot, weren't they? Do you have any more questions, by the way? Because we're approaching Dan. We can continue.
I know we've got 7 minutes. I mean, to be honest, like the next sort of question I had, and you can talk about this if you want, or if you don't want to, then that's fine. Is about moving to a new sixth form, because I've never truly asked you this or properly asked you this question. Because for me, you were always someone that was very well liked, very popular. You had lots of things to offer in year up until year 11. And I remember going in, and one, I was shocked that you weren't in my history class because I thought, oh, maybe he's in the other one. And then two, to find out you weren't even in my sixth form at all. I
Yeah.
was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
you know, and a lot of your friends were still there. So, I mean, I don't want you to start slagging anyone off if that was the reason why. Just sort of, why did you decide to move on?
Well, the reason I moved on was it was totally spare at the moment, but essentially, I was 100% planning to go to Hassie. I was like, yeah, I've got my mind on it. And on results day, I came in and I was like, hey, I would like to do maths, further maths, German, and physics. And they were like, we can't do that because it didn't have the staff. The sixth form was just too small, and so
So was
timetables
it a
for the staff would
timetabling issue?
clash. Yeah,
All right, yeah,
and
yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put my kind of future first here, as opposed to my current social,
Love that.
well-being. And I was like, I'm just gonna go to BRGS, which is the next best option. So I went there and I did maths, further maths, physics, and German. Also chemistry for like 2 weeks, but then I got rid of that. It sucked. Oh, it was so bad.
As if you did 5 subjects at one point.
I really did. I had one free period every 2 weeks.
Wow, nah,
Yeah.
man, I
Not
couldn't
for
do
long.
that.
Not for long.
Couldn't do that, man. That's
No,
like a
neither could I.
That is just. I mean, you know, when we were in sixth form, I used to just think, how the hell did I used to do a full day of school non-stop without any freeze? Like, it just goes.
It
Like
really
the
does.
idea, even now, I just think I need a break every 10 minutes.
Yeah. Uni course load is a lot lighter than I give it credit for, and I'm still like, this has been a tough couple seconds I've just had here. Might need a quick trip to the Bahamas. Yeah,
because I know that the work that I've got is a lot less than what I did at A levels. It's just the fact that because I'm not sat down in the classroom, I think it just feels a lot longer. Like my seminars go like that; they go so quick, and I enjoy them. It's just my actual having to sit down and do a load of reading that I really don't want to do. I want to be interacting.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Too.
I mean, you're doing maths, so I guess there's not a lot of reading. It's just work, like lots of working out and stuff.
Well,
is that the case? Or am I
doing astrophysics, so there's a bit more. There's
bit more reading
right, yeah,
than
would be in maths, but yeah, yeah, it's still a lot of just like, here's the rules, here's the equations, here's how you get the equations, here's how you understand the equations. Go do equations, and also some sort of apply some context to them.
Yeah,
it's about it really. It gets really repetitive, but luckily there's like a new subject every couple of weeks. So,
all right, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't understand. Like, even I think I said this in like either the second or the first episode of the podcast, where I was just sort of talking about how the university system, not necessarily education as a whole, but the university specifically, it's so old and it hasn't modernized. I mean, they use laptops and they think they're modern and they use Zoom calls and whatever. But when you look at it, you're thinking, what is the point of me reading this whole article when I could just scan through it using an actual, because you can get those scanners that just go through the whole thing and then just search a certain word, find it, and boom, there's my answer.
Oh yeah,
like,
you got to
there's no
control
reason
F
for
that.
that. Or I could just look online and find out someone's theory, but in a short version. There you go, I've got it. Like, there's no and like having to just sit there and read for hours and hours. There's not really a point anymore. There's so much more working together in the actual working environment. But it's even, I know, and I get with COVID, it's thingy, but I just want to be in a classroom more. I miss that.
Me
I want to be chatting to people.
Oh, same. It's such a terrible thing, especially being, because I've got a house of 12 right at uni.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, and I've not been living with them for the past month and a half, 2 months, and it's really crippling after spending like pretty much every second with them.
Yeah, I mean, I just that's feel a lot of people as well.
Yeah.
There's only like 4 of us in mine. I wish there was more, because the more the better. Like, there's different people.
Absolutely.
You get
so
to,
much
I
more
think
diverse.
Yeah, the first comeback episode that you guys did, it was like partially into uni, and you were all talking about how you were enjoying it and how great it was, and then you got to socialize and do this and do that, and it's like now it's just gone
Yes.
for everyone. And I
Yeah.
do wonder what it's going to be like next year.
Yeah.
It is
big time.
an interesting thingy. So, right, James, it's been lovely to have you on, but we've got a minute
Thank
and
you.
50. So, do you want to plug yourself as much as possible?
Plug myself.
I mean, not that I've got a big audience. I have like 2 people listening, but they might want to follow you.
Well, hello to people listening. I have an Instagram that is at james.robbo with 3 B's. And that's about it. I have a podcast called the Hypothetical Boxing Podcast. If you want to check that out on Spotify, I'm sure there'll be a link below because Tarek's a good man. And yeah, make sure you check out Tarek's new football podcast. It's very, very good.
I need to get
and-
you on for that as well. I want to get both of
yes.
you on. Talk about
Oh,
United. You support
United.
Burnley. Oh, do you support Burnley? I don't understand who you support actually.
I do support Burnley.
Oh, okay, so yeah, we need.
I'm yet to listen to the Benji Lord episode because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was revising at the time when I saw it advertised. But I'll give that a listen
Well,
tomorrow.
For the United Burnley game, I'll get you and Ismail on.
Oh,
whenever
brilliant!
that
We can have match commentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be sick. Imagine doing match commentary. Might do a
Oh,
post
hell
match
yeah.
or a pre match or something like that. Should be interesting.
Yeah.
But
Well,
anyway, James,
it's
it's
been
been brilliant. Thanks everyone for watching, and take care.